Despite an upsurge of violence in Syria, UN Special Envoy Kofi Annan says he remains optimistic his peace plan can work. A ceasefire is due to come into effect tomorrow. But for many Syrians living abroad, the reports of even more killings back at home leaves little room for optimism. Faisal al-Azam is a member of the Syrian Canadian Council, a group trying to establish democracy and human rights in Syria. Sir, if we could ask you first your thoughts about what has happened over the last few days. Mr. Annan's, I'm sure his involvement in this must have given a lot of people a lot of optimism.
It's actually surprising that people find this resolution or this plan from Kofi Annan optimistic, or they had any hope. For all of us, it's clear. I mean, it's been systematic for the past year. Assad has really drawn the notebook for all dictators: mass killing, kidnapping, torture, and promises of reform. What this year has showed us that this regime is ready to kill, and kill to stay in power. But they also showed us that they are masters of diversion, masters of taking advantage of loopholes in domestic and international law. So if you ask us if we are optimistic, no, we know the outcome. We know that this regime is fighting an existential fight, a point of no return. So it is either they are going to end up in prison, or they are going to end up killed, or they will stay in power.
Sir, we had an analyst tell us yesterday that he sees no way for peace as the West would want it in Syria, that this regime is going to stay and this regime will in fact win and hold power in Syria. Does that type of analysis, that must just drive you crazy?
Well, for Syrians, it's the same way the regime sees it as an existential fight. We see it as well as an existential fight. With more than 15,000 martyrs right now, and approximately 200,000 people have entered Syrian prisons since the 15th of March. It is a fight that will not end. I mean, families that have lost loved ones in Homs, in Idlib, in Damascus, in the suburbs of Damascus, are not going to stop. So it will go until the end. And just a message to the international community: you need to understand that every strategy that you have used with this regime has not worked. Diplomacy does not work with a killing machine like the Assad regime. Diplomacy does not work with a regime like Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi that are ready to use missiles, tanks, helicopters, their paramilitary thugs to torture and rape. It does not work. If you want to have a plan that will work, you need to give them an ultimatum and tell them, if you do not respect this plan, then force will be used. This is the only way that the Assad regime will listen to the international community. Anything else is a waste of time. It is buying time and license to kill.
Yeah. Now, it must be obvious to you that the West does not appear to be inclined to intervene in Syria militarily. What about other neighbors and friends of Syria? What if Iran got involved or Turkey got involved? What if Russia got involved? These are players that might have some influence.
Well, we need to understand something important, is that we've already spoken about that. You have the friends of Syria, but you have the friends of the regime. The friends of the regime are doing a lot. Russia has given them 2 vetoes, are sending them the latest weapons that they haven't sent them for the past 40 years. Iranian intelligence is on Syrian soil, providing military expertise and other intelligent tools. But the friends of Syria, as you mentioned, well, they've been talking a lot, and unfortunately not a lot of action behind this talk. But I need to say something, that there is something I'm optimistic about with the Kofi Annan plan, is the point about peacekeeping, more of UN observers that I think can be expanded to peacekeeping forces. When the Arab League observers were in Syria, the killing was not to this intensity. We were not seeing 160 people dead per day. And I'm sure that Bashar al-Assad would not have bombarded Bab Amra for 3 consecutive weeks with tank shells and missiles if observers were there. So this is something optimistic that can come out of this plan, if we can have UN professional observers or peacekeeping forces on Syrian soil. This will protect Syrians and will give them a sense of protection, and it will move the street once again and move out from the militarization of the conflict.
Faisal Al-Azam is a member of the Syrian Canadian Council. We appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.